I didn't think one sentence could cause an earthquake in my family, but the moment I said it, everything cracked beneath my feet. I can't watch the baby this weekend. I have a doctor's appointment. That's all I said.
Calm, simple, honest.
But that silence on the other end of the phone? That heavy pause before my daughter whispered, "Oh, okay then," and hung up without another word. That silence? It's louder in my memory than any scream ever could be. I stood there in my kitchen, holding the phone like it was still ringing, but deep down I knew I didn't just say no. In her eyes, I abandoned her. I failed her. And the part that hurts most? She had no idea what I was really going through. No clue. Because while she was asking me to take care of her baby for one weekend, I was fighting for my life. Quietly. Alone. That Friday wasn't just a routine doctor visit. It wasn't a dental cleaning or a blood pressure check. It was an oncology appointment. I'd been hiding the symptoms for weeks, maybe months. The fatigue. The weight loss. The bruises I couldn't explain. I told myself it was age, maybe stress, maybe just my body being weird. But when I fainted in the grocery store parking lot, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I called the doctor the next day, and after a round of blood work, they scheduled me for something called further investigation. You know the words. The ones they use when they don't want to say the big scary one yet. But I already knew. I knew the minute the nurse wouldn't look me in the eye when she handed me the referral. Still, I told no one. Not Ellie. Not my friends. Not even my sister. Because I didn't want them worrying. And more than that, I didn't want to accept it myself. So when Ellie called and asked if I could take care of the baby for the weekend, and I said I had a doctor's appointment, I wasn't lying. I was just protecting her. Or so I thought. That weekend came like a wave I couldn't dodge. The baby didn't come. The toys didn't scatter across my living room. The cartoons didn't hum from the TV. It was quiet. Too quiet. I sat in my chair, sipping lukewarm tea, staring at nothing, feeling like I had just let my daughter down in the worst possible way. But what choice did I have? I was scared. I was in pain. And I had no strength left to pretend everything was fine. When Friday morning came, I walked into that clinic alone. The hallways were cold. The lights were too bright. And everyone was whispering in that hospital voice that makes you feel smaller than you already do. I waited almost an hour before the doctor came in, sat down across from me, and said it. "We're looking at lymphoma. Stage 2. But we're catching it early." My ears started ringing. Stage 2. Lymphoma. Early. Treatable. Words that meant nothing because they were drowned out by the sound of my heart shattering in my chest. All I could think about was the baby. My granddaughter. Would I live long enough for her to remember me? I went home that evening, wrapped in a fog I couldn't shake. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just sat on the porch and watched the sky change colors like nothing had happened. Ellie didn't call. Not that day. Not the day after. Not for weeks. I knew she was hurt. I knew she thought I didn't want to help. That I was too busy. Too tired. Too selfish. But how could I explain that I didn't tell her because I didn't want her to look at me differently? That I didn't want her to carry this fear on top of everything else she was already juggling. Kids, work, a marriage barely holding together. I thought I was doing the right thing. But silence, it turns out, can do more damage than the truth ever could. As the weeks turned into months, I started chemotherapy. My hair began to fall out. My skin turned pale. My body ached in ways I never imagined possible. And still, I heard nothing from Ellie. No calls. No texts. No, "How are you, Mom?" It was like I had vanished. Like she had buried me already. I don't blame her. How could she have known? In her world, I just didn't show up when she needed me. That one weekend, that one sentence, it became a wall between us, brick by brick. And I couldn't find the strength to tear it down. I remember one afternoon, I was sitting in the hospital's waiting room, wearing a scarf over my bald head, surrounded by strangers who looked just as broken as I felt. A young woman walked in with her mother. She was holding her mom's hand, helping her sit down gently, tucking a blanket around her legs. They didn't talk much. Just sat close, like they'd been through everything together and didn't need words anymore. And I felt this ache in my chest, not from the illness, but from knowing my daughter wasn't there. That if I collapsed, there would be no one to catch me. Then one night, months after that call, she showed up. No warning. No text. Just a knock on the door. I opened it, and there she was, standing on my porch, eyes swollen, holding her daughter in one arm and a small overnight bag in the other. She didn't say a word, just stared at me. And then, in a whisper, "Mom, I'm so sorry." I didn't ask why she was sorry. I didn't need to. I just pulled her into my arms, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I held my baby girl again. That night, we sat on the floor, in the living room. Just us. The baby sleeping between us, soft breaths, the sound of forgiveness humming quietly in the air. I told her everything. About the diagnosis, the chemo, the fear,
The shame.
I told her why I didn't say anything, why I didn't ask for help. And she cried like I hadn't seen her cry since she was 5 years old. She kept saying, "Why didn't you tell me? I would have come. I would have been there." And I said, "Because I didn't want you to have to be. I thought I was protecting you." That night changed everything. Not perfectly, not instantly, but slowly, gently, like healing does. Now every Sunday she comes by. The baby runs to me like I'm the whole world. She calls me Mimi and brings drawings with too many colors and stick figures that look like aliens. And Ellie, she sits beside me, asks how I'm feeling, helps me with groceries, brings me soup she makes too salty, and I eat every spoonful because it tastes like love. We don't talk about that weekend anymore. We don't need to. But sometimes, when it's quiet, when the baby is napping and the tea is steeping, she looks at me and says, "I'm glad you're still here." And I just smile and say, "Me too." You see, this isn't just a story about a weekend. I said no. It's not just about a doctor's appointment or a baby bag that never made it to my doorstep. It's about what happens when love is hidden behind fear, when silence becomes a shield, and how sometimes the people who love you most don't know how much you need them unless you let them in. If you're watching this right now, and there's someone you're angry at, someone who let you down, or maybe you're the one who walked away, ask yourself this. Do you know the whole story? Or are you holding on to pain that doesn't belong to you anymore? Life is short. And love, real love, it's messy. It's not about always saying yes. It's about showing up after you said no. It's about forgiving the silence, healing through the hurt, and believing that even broken things can be mended. I told myself I was protecting my daughter, but in truth, I was just afraid to be vulnerable. And in that fear, I almost lost the one person I wanted to protect the most. Don't wait for cancer, or a tragedy, or a second chance to say what you really feel. Pick up the phone.